We are covering the impulse momentum principle and the coefficient of restitution, a critical topic in the dynamics section of the FE exam. Impulse is the change in momentum. The formula, found in the dynamics chapter of your NCEES FE reference handbook, is impulse J equals the integral of force over time, which simplifies to the change in momentum, or mass times the change in velocity. Momentum itself, P, is mass times velocity. The key principle tested is the conservation of momentum. In a system with no significant external forces, the total momentum before a collision equals the total momentum after. For two particles, this is m1 times v1 plus m2 times v2 equals m1 times v1 prime plus m2 times v2 prime, where the prime indicates after the collision. Let's work through a typical exam problem. A 5-kilogram block, block 1, is moving at 10 meters per second. It strikes a 10-kilogram block, block 2, which is at rest. The coefficient of restitution, E, is given as 0.6. The question asks for the final velocities of both blocks. First, establish a sign convention. Let's say motion to the right is positive. So v1 is plus 10 and v2 is 0. Now apply conservation of momentum. 5 times 10 plus 10 times 0 equals 5 times v1 prime plus 10 times v2 prime. This simplifies to 50 equals 5 v1 prime plus 10 v2 prime. That is our first equation. We have two unknowns, so we need a second equation, which comes from the coefficient of restitution. The formula for the coefficient of restitution, E, is the ratio of the relative velocity of separation to the relative velocity of approach. Mathematically, E equals the quantity v2 prime minus v1 prime divided by the quantity v1 minus v2. Plugging in our values gives 0.6 equals v2 prime minus v1 prime all over 10 minus 0. This simplifies to 6 equals v2 prime minus v1 prime. Now we have a system of two equations. Solving them simultaneously, for instance, by substituting v2 prime equals 6 plus v1 prime into the momentum equation, gives a final velocity for block 1 of negative 0.67 meters per second, and for block 2, a final velocity of positive 5.33 meters per second. The negative sign for block 1 means it rebounded and is now moving to the left. The NCEES exam will try to trap you here. The biggest trap is the coefficient of restitution formula. The numerator must be v2 prime minus v1 prime, and the denominator must be v1 minus v2. Nixing this order is a frequent mistake. Another common trap is sign convention. Always define your positive direction at the start and stick with it. A negative velocity simply means the object is moving in the opposite direction. Also, remember the special cases. If a collision is perfectly elastic, E is 1 and kinetic energy is conserved. If it's a perfectly inelastic or plastic collision, E is 0 and the objects stick together, meaning v1 prime equals v2 prime. Here's a simple mnemonic to remember the restitution formula order. Think of the velocity pattern 2 minus 1 over 1 minus 2. It's a strange but effective pattern to remember. The primes go on top, and the subscript order is 2 minus 1 over 1 minus 2. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.